Welcome to another episode of She's Evolving. I'm Elena, your host and a medical endocrinologist. Every week we gather here to peel back the layers of what it truly means to grow, age, and thrive as a woman in her prime. Today, we are diving into a topic that hits close to home for every single one of us, usually starting the moment we wake up and look into the bathroom mirror. We're talking about real beauty, not the kind sold in airbrushed magazines, but the kind that lives in our skin, our scars, and our self-esteem. And I'm Julia, a clinical psychologist. I spend my days, and many of my own personal reflections, thinking about the internal mirror, the one that doesn't just show us our reflection, but tells us a story about who we are. If you've ever looked at yourself and felt a pang of, who is this person? Or if you've noticed that your inner critic has become much louder as the candles on the birthday cake increase, this episode is for you. We're here to talk about how to look at yourself with more kindness and significantly less demandingness. It's a heavy topic, isn't it, Julia? But it's also a beautiful one. Before we get into the science and the psychology, I want to invite everyone listening to take a deep breath. This is a safe space. No judgment, no filters. If you enjoy our conversation today, please follow the podcast, leave us a review, and share this with a woman in your life who needs to hear that she is enough, exactly as she is. Let's start with that mirror moment, Elena. You mentioned it earlier. I think for many women over 40 or 50, the mirror becomes a bit of a battlefield. We go from looking at the mirror to check our hair, to looking at the mirror to audit our flaws. When did you first notice that shift for yourself?
It's funny you ask because as a doctor, I knew exactly what was happening biologically. I knew about the declining estrogen, the slowing of collagen production, the thinning of the dermis. But all that medical knowledge didn't protect me from the emotional shock. I remember one morning, maybe 5 years ago, the light in my bathroom was particularly unforgiving. I looked at the skin around my neck and the fine lines around my eyes that seemed to have appeared overnight. My first instinct wasn't, oh, look at these signs of a life well lived. My first instinct was, I need to fix this. My body is failing the beauty test. It felt like a betrayal.
Betrayal is such a powerful word, and I hear it so often in my practice. Women feel like their bodies have broken a promise. We were told that if we took care of ourselves, if we used the right creams and stayed active, we would somehow stay frozen in time. When the reality of aging hits, it's not just about the wrinkles, it's about the loss of control. For me, it wasn't just the skin, it was the invisible woman syndrome. I noticed that in public spaces, the gaze of the world started to pass over me. I wasn't the young woman anymore. I was the mother, or just a woman of a certain age. That shift in how the world sees us deeply affects how we see ourselves. We start to internalize that invisibility. And that's where the skin self-esteem connection becomes so vital. From an endocrinology perspective, our skin is an endocrine organ. It responds to hormones, it produces vitamin D, it's our first line of defense. But socially, it's our business card. When the hormones, specifically estrogen, start to drop during perimenopause and menopause, the skin loses its ability to hold on to moisture. It loses that bounce. To a woman, that feels like her vibrancy is leaking away. I see patients who are devastated because their skin feels dry no matter how much water they drink. They feel like they are wilting.
And psychologically, that wilting feeling translates into a sense of diminishing value. We live in a culture that worships the bud, the youth, the beginning. We don't have many rituals or celebrations for the bloom or the harvest phase of a woman's life. So when we see those changes, our brain, conditioned by decades of societal pressure, triggers an alarm. It says, danger, you are losing your currency. And that's when the exigencia, the high demand, kicks in. We start to demand that our skin behave like it did at 25, which is, quite frankly, a biological impossibility and a psychological cruelty.
It really is. I often tell my patients that trying to have 20-year-old skin at 50 is like trying to drive a vintage car with a modern electric engine. It's not what the car was built for at this stage. But that doesn't mean the vintage car isn't stunning. It's about changing the goal from erasing age to optimizing health. When we talk about skincare in our 40s and 50s, it shouldn't be about anti-aging. I actually hate that term. It should be about pro-vitality. How can we support our skin while it goes through this massive hormonal transition? It needs more hydration, yes.
It needs more protection from the sun because it's thinner. It needs gentle care, not harsh chemicals that promise to peel away the years. I love that shift from anti to pro. In psychology, we call this reframing. If I look in the mirror and say, I hate these bags under my eyes, I am in a state of war with myself. But if I reframe it and say, my eyes show that I've laughed, I've cried, and I've stayed up late talking to people I love, I am moving toward kindness. But let's be honest, Elena, it's hard. Some days the kindness just isn't there. Some days we just feel tired. How do we bridge that gap between the technical reality of our bodies changing and the emotional need to still feel beautiful?
It starts with understanding the why. I think when women understand that their skin is changing because their body is reallocating resources, it helps. During menopause, your body is prioritizing your bones and your heart because estrogen, which used to protect them, is lower. The skin is lower on the priority list for the body's internal survival. When you realize your body is actually working hard to keep you healthy, you start to look at your skin with a bit more empathy. It's not failing, it's adapting.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Empathy for the body. I often ask my clients, would you speak to your best friend the way you speak to your reflection? If your best friend came to you crying because she felt she looked old, you wouldn't point out her pores or her sagging jawline. You would hug her and tell her she's radiant and that her soul is what shines through. Why are we so reluctant to give that same grace to ourselves? We have this perceptual distortion where we zoom in on the one thing we don't like, a spot, a wrinkle, and we let it define the whole image.
Exactly. And the industry feeds on that distortion. Let's talk about some myths, because I think myths are the fuel for our insecurities. One of the biggest myths I hear in my office is that if you just spend enough money on a miracle serum, you can reverse the hormonal impact on your skin. The truth? No cream can replace what the ovaries are no longer producing. You can hydrate from the outside, but the real glow comes from managing your stress, your sleep, and your nutrition. High cortisol, the stress hormone, is the absolute enemy of skin health. It breaks down collagen faster than anything else. So ironically, the more we stress about our wrinkles, the more we create the physiological conditions for them to deepen.
It's a vicious cycle. Stressing about aging makes us age faster. It's almost poetic in its cruelty. Another myth I encounter is the idea that real beauty is something that only exists naturally, and if you do anything to enhance yourself, like a procedure or even just heavy makeup, you're faking it or giving in to the patriarchy. This creates a huge amount of guilt. I see women who want to do a little Botox or a filler, but feel like they are betraying their feminist or natural values. My take is, if it makes you feel more like you, and you're doing it from a place of self-love rather than self-loathing, where is the harm? The exigencia here is the demand to be perfectly natural, while also perfectly youthful. It's a trap. It really is a trap. I always say, do what makes you feel comfortable in your own house, and your skin is your first house. If a certain treatment helps you look in the mirror and smile, great, but don't expect it to fix your self-esteem. That's Julia's department. You can have the smoothest forehead in the world and still feel miserable if you haven't done the internal work. That's the beauty beyond the mirror part of our title today. I want to talk about the internal gaze. There's a concept called body neutrality. It's a step beyond body positivity, which can sometimes feel forced. Body neutrality is simply acknowledging, this is my body. It carries me through the world. It allows me to hug my grandchildren, to walk in the park, to taste a good meal. When we focus on what the body does rather than how it looks, the pressure on the skin starts to dissipate. Elena, what are the most common questions you get from women who are struggling with this new body after 40?
One of the most frequent questions is it too late? Women feel like if they didn't start a rigorous routine at 25, they've lost the window. I want to say loudly, it is never too late to start caring for your skin and your health. Your skin cells are constantly regenerating. If you start protecting your skin from the sun today, if you start hydrating properly today, if you start eating antioxidant-rich foods today, your skin will respond. It's incredibly resilient. Another question is about libido and skin. Women feel that because their skin feels less sexy or soft, they are no longer sexual beings.
Oh, that's a big one. The connection between physical appearance and the right to desire and be desired. We've been conditioned to think that only taut skin is erotic. But intimacy in our 50s is about so much more. It's about connection, safety, and a different kind of sensuality that isn't dependent on a lack of cellulite. When we look at ourselves with kindness, we actually become more attractive to others because we exude a sense of peace. There is nothing more beautiful than a woman who is no longer at war with herself. I couldn't agree more. I see it in my patients. The ones who embrace the changes, who adjust their lifestyle to support their new hormonal reality, they have a light that no filler can replicate. It's a vitality that comes from acceptance. But let's touch on the less demandingness part. How do we actually practice that, Julia? In a world of Instagram filters and tweakments, how do we lower the bar of expectation for our physical selves?
It starts with a digital detox, or at least a digital curation. If you are following accounts of 20-year-old influencers who are selling anti-aging products, unfollow them. They are not your peers. Find women who are aging loudly, proudly, and realistically. Secondly, practice mirror gazing with a different script. Instead of looking for what's wrong, look into your own eyes, not your skin, your eyes. See the person who has survived every hard day of her life. See the wisdom there. And thirdly, acknowledge the inner critic. When that voice says, "You look tired," or "You look old," talk back to it. Say, "Yes, I am older, and that is a privilege denied to many. I am tired because I am living a full life." A privilege denied to many. That hit me hard, Julia. We often treat aging as a disease we're trying to cure, rather than a natural progression we are lucky to experience. My mother used to say that her wrinkles were just the map of her life's journey. I used to think that was just something people said to feel better, but now I see the medical truth in it. Every line is a biological record of a moment. And as we move toward the end of our conversation today, I want to ask our listeners to think about one thing they can do tonight to show their skin and their soul some kindness. Maybe it's not a 10-step routine. Maybe it's just applying a moisturizer slowly, with intention, and thanking your face for everything it has faced today. I love that. For me, it's about that ritual of self-care. It's not about the product, it's about the 5 minutes I give to myself. It's a message to my brain that says, I am worth taking care of, even if I don't look like I did 20 years ago. Our bodies are changing, yes. Our skin is changing, yes. But that's not a sign of decline. It's a sign of evolution. We are becoming more complex, more seasoned, and more deeply ourselves.
Exactly. You are not losing your beauty. Your beauty is shifting its form. It's moving from the surface into the marrow of who you are. So the next time you look in that mirror and the light is a little too bright, try to see the woman beyond the reflection. See her strength, her humor, her resilience. We hope this conversation has given you a bit of a hug today. Your skin is your companion on this journey, not your enemy. Treat it with the same love you'd give to a dear friend. Thank you for being with us on She's Evolving. If this episode resonated with you, please share it. Let's start a movement of women looking at themselves with kindness. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Find us on social media and tell us, what is one thing you love about your evolving self? Remember, your body is changing, but this isn't the end. It's a new, more authentic beginning. And you are not alone. We are right here with you, evolving every day. Until next time, be kind to yourself. See you in the next episode. Stay beautiful, inside and out.
That is such an important point. It's the body-mind feedback loop. If our metabolism is sluggish, we feel sluggish, and our self-perception becomes sluggish. We start to see ourselves as faded. When we address the internal health, the hormones, the inflammation, the light seems to come back on. But it's also psychological. If we feel faded emotionally, we stop putting in the effort, not for the world, but for ourselves. I see women who stop wearing colors they love or stop doing their hair because they feel like, what's the point? That "what's the point" is the most dangerous phrase a woman can say. The point is that you are still here. You are the protagonist of your life. I often tell my patients to treat their morning routine as a medical prescription for their soul. Use the vitamin C serum because it protects your skin cells, but also use it because the act of doing something for yourself signals to your brain that you are a priority. It's about reoccupying your body, Many women, especially those who have spent decades caring for children, partners, or aging parents, have moved out of their own bodies. They live in their heads, constantly planning and worrying. Self-care and gentle looking are ways to move back in, to say, I live here. This skin is my home. I've noticed that when I talk to women about their skin journey, they often bring up their mothers. There's a lot of inherited beauty trauma. My mother always complained about her neck, or my mother never let anyone see her without makeup. We are carrying the insecurities of the generations before us. Part of looking at ourselves with more kindness is breaking that cycle for the women coming after us. If our daughters and granddaughters see us embracing our age with grace and vitality, they won't grow up fearing the mirror.
That's a powerful legacy. Imagine a world where a woman turning 50 is seen as entering her power years rather than her fading years. In many cultures, the crone phase, which sounds harsh in English but actually means the wise woman, was the most respected. She was the healer, the advisor, the one who knew the secrets of life. She didn't have to have perfect skin because her value was in her vision. We need to reclaim that vision, and that starts with how we look at ourselves when no one else is watching. It's easy to be kind to ourselves when we're dressed up for a party. The real work happens at 11 p.m. when we're taking off our makeup and the house is quiet. That's when the less demandingness needs to kick in. That's when we need to say, good job today, body. We did well. I love that. Good job today, body. It's so simple, yet so profound. We ask so much of our bodies, to work, to move, to process stress, to digest food, to fight off viruses. And then we have the nerve to be angry at them for having a few wrinkles? It's quite unfair when you think about it. It really is. I've started doing this exercise with some of my patients who are very distressed about their physical changes. I ask them to write a thank you letter to their skin. It sounds cheesy, I know, but it's transformative. They write about how their skin protected them from a childhood scrape, how it felt when they held their first love, how it stretched to accommodate a pregnancy, how it feels when the sun hits it on a summer day. By the end, they aren't looking at imperfections, they are looking at a record of survival and joy.
That's beautiful. It shifts the focus from aesthetic to experiential. Our skin isn't a statue, it's a living, breathing history book. And as we conclude this part of our journey today, Elena, I'm reminded that real beauty isn't a destination. It's not something you achieve once you find the right cream or the right mindset. It's a daily practice. Some days you'll feel like a queen, and some days you'll feel like you've aged 10 years in a week. Both are okay. Both are part of the evolution. As we always say here on She's Evolving, the goal isn't to stay the same. The goal is to become more of who you were always meant to be. And that woman, the one who is wise, kind, and comfortable in her own skin, is the most beautiful woman of all. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the mirror. We hope you walk away today feeling a little lighter, a little kinder, and a lot more appreciative of the incredible woman looking back at you in the reflection. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, and share this episode. Let's spread the message that beauty beyond the mirror is the only kind that truly lasts. Stay well, stay kind, and keep evolving. We'll talk to you in the next episode. You know, Julia, I think I'll go home and give my skin a little extra hydration tonight. Not because I want to hide my age, but because I want to celebrate it. I'll do the same. Maybe with a side of some very undemanding chocolate and a good book. Perfect. Good night, everyone. Good night.